know.
So recently, I went on a little adventure.
Right then, I think it's time to build a table in Great Britain. I think that's what we're going to do today. How's my English accent?
Oh.
Now, setting aside my exceptional Dick Van Dyke impersonation for a moment, I found myself in the UK, ready to design and build a coffee table in a week. I don't use the golden ratio too much. A 5-to-8 ratio, delightful.
Yeah.
You know?
5-to-8.
Nice. Okay. 60-80 is good, you know, a 3-to-4. Like I was just saying, kind of a 3 to 4 foot. That works really nicely. I think that's a great starting place. I say we get down to the shop, we pull some cardboard, we do a cardboard mock-up so we get a sense of how these curves are going to play.
Yeah.
And we roll from there.
Cool. Sounds like a plan.
Hell yeah. That's how you design.
So, currently in England with my buddy Andy.
Hello.
And the aim this week, obviously we're in his workshop, reasonably well equipped. It's always interesting building something in somebody else's shop because you don't know kind of the workflow, you don't know the space. But the aim this week, we've got 5 days, is to build a coffee table. And we did a lot of research, a lot of communication beforehand, trying to figure out what we were going to end up with. And what we've settled on right now is kind of a curved leg table. We're going to do some tapered bent lambs. We're going to mock it up in cardboard right now so that we get a sense of the scale of the object and what those curves are actually going to look like. And then, have you ever done bent lambs before?
No.
Not at all. So
No.
You've definitely not done tapered bent lambs.
Definitely not.
Okay. And the whole visual component of this piece, right now we think it's going to have a glass top, is to create kind of this, you know, beautiful kind of curvilinear or sculptural piece.
Yeah.
And then leave that glass top on so you can experience it from all the different directions.
Yes.
I love it. This is going to be...
It's going to be cool.
It's going to be cool, man. It's going to be an intriguing challenge. So, let's break out that cardboard and start mocking it up.
Yep.
Here's the thing about design mock-ups and whatnot. Like, that's a really engaging line to me,
Yeah.
but it's also going to be viewed from that angle.
Yeah.
So how does that change the way that you perceive the piece? All right, so here's where we're at the moment. We did our cardboard mock-up. We decided everything looks great. The curves and the proportions are working really nicely. We've then drawn out our curves for both the long leg and the short leg, so we have those ready to roll. Now we're going to start working on the lamination. So I'm about to build a tapering sled because these laminations are going to taper from 7 mil to 5 mil, or for my freedom-loving red, white, and blue wearing friends, close to 3/8 of an inch to, oh no, that's a heavy 1/4 of an inch to maybe around 3/16.
What?
So I'm going to build the tapering sleds. We are going to have to use 2 separate tapering sleds because we need these dimensions to line up. And of course, the arcs are different lengths. So we're going to build 2 of those. And then while I'm building those, Andy's going to be milling up some poplar so that we can do a dry run of both of these legs to make sure that everything lines up. That's step 1 is sleds, poplar laminations, and then once we get that squared away, we can start thinking about doing them in ash. So here's the situation at the moment. We've got our short laminations done, milled up. These are poplar, so this is the dry run. And they are tapered, what did we say, from roughly about 7 to 5 mil. Yeah. Over the course of 90 mil-ish.
900 mil.
Sorry, 900 mil, 90 centimeters. Yeah. So what we're going to do is, just to make sure that everything's going to go smoothly. That's the dinner timer.
That's dinner.
Dinner is served.
So we're going to make sure that this is going to take the bend using the bag press. So we're just going to put it in here. We're not going to track it. We're not going to worry about slippage or anything. We just want to make sure that the thickness of that lamination can actually pull over the form. So we're going to get set up and do that. All right. Yeah. I would be doing this with clamping calls if I was doing it on my own, for sure.
Towards my end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna pull. Welp, the bag didn't work.
You must be kidding, aren't you?
It didn't pull the lambs all the way down to the form. It just didn't have enough pressure because the lambs are pretty thick, but that's fine. We made a decision to adjust a little bit, put some holes in here, and I'll add more holes and more clamps when we actually do glue this thing up. But just to see if it would actually pull all the way down to the form, it did. It looks great. So I think that's where we're gonna call it for the night. I think it's beer o'clock now.
One day later.
Now, a lot has happened over the last 36 hours or so to get us to the point where we have one sample leg glued up. So let's talk about exactly what happened and why we did the things we did, because we didn't really explain it as we were going. We were really just trying to figure it out. So here is the rough design that we're basing this table on. Kind of basic overall concept, sweeping curves, half lap joint in the middle, glass top, open concept. In order to differentiate our table from what this is, we're going to do bent laminations. So we have a bunch of strips of wood that we're bending over a form and gluing together. The other thing is they're tapered laminations, meaning that each component, each lamination that we're going to glue together is thicker at one end and thinner at the other end. And what that does is, over a stack of laminations, you end up getting this effect where you have a thicker end and a thinner end, and those lines follow the entirety of that curve. And it's a real joy to behold. It's a beautiful thing. I've done this on several projects in the past, the Atlas table, the Ponchette cabinet. I think it really, I hesitate to use the word elevates, but I think it does elevate to some extent the craftsmanship of the project. Now, at this point, you might have two questions kind of lingering in your brain. The first is, you might be saying to yourself, hey, Eric, it's all good and well that you're doing bent laminations to do something a little bit different, but what I saw in cardboard and what I saw in that photo you just showed, those designs look eerily similar. How are you not ripping off this design? And that's a fair question. And in short, well, we are. Andy is not a professional furniture maker, nor is he a professional designer. This is a learning project for him. I am there to teach him these techniques. So we're pulling a piece that he saw in real life in a gallery that he really liked, and there was a lot there to digest and learn about the techniques used in that piece. And we're modifying it to fit our aesthetic and our design needs. So that piece was not laminated, that was just cut out of solid. Ours will be tapered laminations. That piece was square, our piece is going to be rectangular. That piece was oak, our piece is going to be ash. It's the same, but it's different. But most importantly, this is not a piece that we are designing and replicating to sell. This is a learning project for my buddy Andy.
Cooking with gas.
Cooking with the center. All right, moment of truth. We've got our two forms laminated. They've been in the clamps for what, 12 hours?
Yeah.
Yeah. About 12 hours. The short boy's been in close to 24. Yeah. So we should be in good shape. Let's see how they're looking once we take them out. That's the call, yeah.
Thought we were in trouble there for a second, but it's fine. We're fine.
Oh, yeah. It's a good sign.
Also good that the cools don't stick.
Yep.
Haven't stuck. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Stay bent.
It stayed bent. That's a leg right there, folks. All right. We've got a little cleanup, and then we can joint one edge, send it through the thicknesser to bring it down. It's almost dead on 1 3/4. We're glorious.
Is it really?
We're glorious right now. One down. So now that at least a handful of folks have hit send on that rage comment about how I never asked a second question, let alone answered it, here it comes. The second question that you might be asking yourself at this moment in time is, why are you making these out of poplar? Surely you're not taking the time to make a beautiful bent lamination coffee table out of poplar. And no, of course we're not. I've already mentioned that we're making it out of ash in the end. So why are we taking the time to make a prototype out of poplar? That seems like a waste of time and a waste of resources, and to some extent it is. But when you're working with curves, there's so many variables, and this is why I rarely do full-scale drawings, but for curved components like this, I have to, because I have to know where these curves meet the floor and that they're flat at that point. These components are going to be curved and mitered, so they're going to be meeting at the corner at 45 degrees. I need to know that that component is perpendicular to the floor at that point. And most critically, these two curved components are going to cross one another and create a half lap. So I need to figure out exactly where that half lap lies, exactly how wide and how curved those shoulders need to be, so that I can determine whether or not I'm going to cut those by hand, or if I'm going to make a router jig to route those. Now, can you do that without a poplar prototype? Of course you can. You can just do it directly on your ash piece, but when you've spent 4.5 days making all of these components, you might want to buy yourself a little insurance to make sure that the joint fits properly before you cut your final pieces. Boom! There it is. All right, so we are halfway through the glue-ups. We got 2 done yesterday afternoon-ish. We got 2 more done late last night after a handful of beverages. And you know, gluing up when you have to glue up, that's the nature of it sometimes. But sometimes when you do that, you get halfway through a glue up of lamination and you realize that you've put the tapered laminations in the form backwards. And the skinny parts at the wrong part and the big parts at the opposite side.
At least you marked it.
At least I marked it and still put it in backwards.
Well, no, but you marked it so you realised that rather than us
Right.
realising this morning.
Exactly. So it does happen, but we're gonna get 2 more in the forms this morning, and then the last 2 we're gonna get done this evening, and then it's a series of figuring out how we're going to do the half lap joint, which we will address as soon as we figure that out. All right, buddy.
You're not having the cat.
It doesn't have a face, man.
It doesn't have a face, but it has a thistle.
Visually appealing. Fair. So, the jigs to do our half laps are pretty simple jigs, right? I mean, fundamentally.
You look at it now and it looks simple.
Right,
Because
right.
it's 3 bits of MDF just thrown together.
Right, and so the question is, how do you do that, and 2, how do you do it accurately?
Yeah.
What we've got is this registration point on the inside will line up with our pencil marks for our half laps. This face is curved to match the curve of the leg. Place it in, and I'll bevel these out so we can just clamp them in 2 spots, and then we can route. The question is, how the hell do you figure that out? There's a piece of paper on that workbench, if you could grab that for me. This is where having those full-scale drawings becomes not even invaluable. Like, it's necessary when you're dealing with these types of components to figure out where things exist in real space. So, thank you, sir.
It looks so Heath Robinson.
I don't even know what Heath Robinson is, but
Alright, so
I
like,
trust you. So I've definitely, these look like Heath Robinson, if I know Heath Robinson at all. But all this is a tracing of these full scale drawings that I've done. And that gives me kind of 4 exit marks that I can map out on the underside of my jig. And once I've got those aligned, then I know exactly where this arc falls.
So 4.5 days into this project, we have our jigs made and our laminations glued. And the only question that remains is, can we build a coffee table in an afternoon? It just dances so nicely.
Could you just move your left leg?
He's like, get out of my shot.
Like, oh man, it's just the way you have like these 2 angles. This one coming up and towards you,
Yeah.
and that one going up and away from you.
Yeah. It just like,
It's just.
it's so bouncy and playful.
Yeah, it
You
is,
know what I
isn't
mean?
it?
It's very sexy, but there's also something like the star from Mario right now. You know what I mean?
No,
You don't know Super Mario Bros?
not really.
It's even sexier on camera. How is that possible? Right. It just keeps moving on you.
Like the way the facet open, the shapes open up and close, close.
You know what I think this calls for? I think this calls for whiskey and design talk.
I was thinking pub.
I'm here for it.
Not for long, but you are.